Mark, you talk about a process for prospecting, yet our sales reps are really busy. How are they going to find time with all the other stuff they've got to do for prospecting?
If you have the attitude that where am I going to find time, you'll never find time to do it. It is no longer, you don't forget about eating. You may delay eating, but you're going to eat. It's a fundamental piece of what you do. Same thing we have to look at prospecting. We must have it be part of our daily or minimally weekly routine. Because if you don't, you won't do it. It's too easy to have everything else kind of get in the way. And the reason we say it gets in the way is because we really don't want to prospect. And what I want to show is this very deliberate process that allows you to see how prospecting works, and when it's done very methodically, you're going to have results.
All right, so we need to make sure we make time for it. What would that schedule look like for prospecting?
Well, there's two ways to do it. I really prefer doing it daily. And there's 3 windows of time that I love to do prospecting. First thing in the morning, right after lunch, and the end of the day. Now here's why. It is amazing how we really waste a lot of time. We come into work in the morning and we kind of gear up. We come back from lunch, we kind of gear up. At the end of the day, we kind of wind down. Use those 3 periods as really your go-to times for prospecting. So what I like to say is I'm going to use the first 30 minutes of the morning, be making prospecting contacts. I'm going to use the first 20 minutes after lunch, and I'm going to use the last 30 minutes of the day. Now, there's a couple tools that we got to remember, because if we talk about having discipline, it really starts with a very fundamental piece. I like to say, tomorrow begins today. I never want to go home. I never want to end the day without knowing exactly what I'm going to do tomorrow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off the first 30 minutes of the day, and I'm going to make some prospecting contacts. And I love early in the morning. Why? Because most other salespeople aren't working. So the people I touch base with, I come in contact with, they're going to be impressed that I'm working.
Yep.
Right after lunch, same thing. Again, it becomes really wasted time. I'm going to catch people because it's an opportunity for me to many times catch people before they gear back up. And same thing with the end of the day. For those of us who are dealing with multiple time zones, it's absolutely cool. Now, some people can't do every day. Okay, at least dedicate, we'll say 90 minutes 2 or 3 times a week. It may be on Tuesday, it may be on Thursday, it may be on Friday. Now, everybody has a different market. Everybody, we have different geos and so forth. And so you got to kind of pick what works for you. But the key is being very deliberate and having that time marked on your calendar. If you don't mark it on your calendar, you won't do it because other stuff will come up.
Okay, so a couple key takeaways there for me, Mark. One is we need to make sure we're doing it in a sequence, routine type basis. 2, it's going to make us look more productive because we're actually taking advantage of time that usually we'd be just ramping up or ramping down. And 3, that's the best time that we're going to get responses from the prospects that we're calling.
Right.
All right, so in a 30-minute window, like how many calls would you expect to be able to make, or how many is the right amount?
Well, again, everybody's geo, we're all in different areas. So, but what I'd like to say is that the majority of the time you're making phone calls, they're going to wind up going into voicemail. So in a 30-minute window, I might be able to make 10, 15, 20 calls in a 30-minute window. Yeah. But I may make 1 call and get on the phone with somebody. So it's going to vary. Okay. The key thing is being disciplined and saying this. Now, this is another really key thing. Thinking about prospecting is not prospecting. I watch too many people say, I'm going to prospect, and they spend all day getting ready to prospect. Oh, day's over, I got to go. And they never get around to doing it. This is why I said back at the beginning, tomorrow begins today. Before I leave, what I want to do is I want to make the list. Who are the people I'm going to be reaching out to tomorrow? I've got that ready to go. And I can hit the ground running when the day starts. Thinking about prospecting is not prospecting. I'm only prospecting when I'm talking with you, the prospect, on the telephone.
Okay, so it's about being following up, making sure that we have the time, and making sure you're persistent. So what are a couple things we can do to prospect now?
Well, a couple things we can do to prospect right now is simply get on the phone and start making contacts. Now, one of the challenges that we have is that people are hesitant. They're hesitant to prospect. And the reason they're hesitant to prospect is because they don't know quite what to ask. Don't be concerned about it. Get in and do it. Just do it. Start making contacts. Now, prospecting is not all about just the telephone, and just as it's not all about email. It's using all of the tools. Okay. And you know, I can share any number of examples of salespeople and companies I've worked with that have had unbelievable results by putting in place a process and being deliberate and following through. And here's what happens. They now create relationships that turn into business opportunities on the front end. And this is really what we're trying to do. We're trying to get in on the front end. We don't want to be in just when the bid comes out. We want to be in on the front end. And I could share with you any number of examples where people are making calls, getting their relationships developed, and then what happens? That prospect begins to say, hey, we got this coming up. Can you help? Can you? That's what it's all about.
That's a key point, especially in the enterprise space where our sales cycles are much longer than with PCs. It's important that we get in early and we continue to mine that. I know an example where one of our sales reps was very persistent and followed up and just happened to hit at the right time, and she was able to turn over one of our competitor accounts because she really followed through and she happened to be making those calls. It's not a one-time event. It's about being following through and being there at the right time.
You said something very key. The persistence, the follow-through. It's the consistency, because she was able to develop a relationship, a level of contact, a level of confidence that allowed that opportunity to come to us.
Exactly.
I love it.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.